increase loyalty of characters. That's the essence of spirit. It increases the chances of your monks succeeding in their missions. Way of the sword enables the building of a sword dojo to build nodachi troops, and so on. There's a whole tree. You have to choose your path through it. There are lots of routes, and some routes are better than others. Okay, naval battles are another part of the game. They're also really useful for exploration. So we can see as you go exploring, it reveals the geography. So you can see exactly what is where. Although you do have a vague idea from the 2D map. But it also reveals who is where, which is just as important. It reveals, and you can see what resources a region has, so you can plan which regions you want to conquer next. And as you reveal more clans, you can trade with them and have diplomacy with them and so on. Another feature of the game, it's not particularly apparent on the map here, is the way Europeans intervened in Japanese history by bringing gunpowder, or gunpowder weapons. I mean, gunpowder had been around for a long time, which was basically Chinese technology, rockets and fireworks and fire bombs and that kind of thing. They're all in the game. But the Europeans bring early muskets, arquebuses, and they rapidly get adopted. There's a whole period where there's a battle between Christianity and Buddhism in Japan, where the Europeans bring basically the guns and religion, and try and push both of them into Japan. And that drives the tech tree in a lot of ways. Another feature we have is what we call dilemmas. That's where we swept up a lot of the little bits and pieces which we'd like to put in the game that don't fit any of the obvious systems. And we end up presenting it as an event with a yes/no choice for the player. So, for example, when a faction is destroyed, all of their armies turn into Ronin, a masterless samurai, and the player will get an option to hire some of those guys. They'll be quite expensive. If you hire them, they'll add to your armies. If you don't hire them, they'll probably become bandits, and you'll end up with a public order problem. So that's the kind of dilemma you get. Or if there's an earthquake, you'll have an option to spend money on relief efforts, which probably will make the population a lot happier, but it'll cost you a lot of money, and maybe you don't need the population to be happy at that point, depending on what your plan is. So dilemmas give us a tool that we can use to present lots of different things which don't fit other game systems. Okay, I guess we'll end this by having a quick look at the whole of the map. That marker's just turned off the fog of war, so it's as if you've explored the whole world. Although this game is set just in Japan, it's not as big as the whole world, which we had in Empire. But from the player's perspective, it's just as big a game as Empire was. It's still epic. It's a long way to the other end of Japan. Okay, that's it for the campaign. If we have time, Okay, we'll go on and we'll show you a bit of the naval battles. I like to ask people not to film this because we've not shown this to anyone before. Useful, but there's a lot more material actually been translated from Japanese into English since then. We had a guy help us out with Shogun 1 called Stephen Turnbull, who's a sort of famous historian who deals with Japanese stuff. And in the 10 years since we released this game, he's written about 20 more books on Japanese history, and he's helping us again. So there's plenty more material to mine this time. Yep.
In the last few Shogun or Total War games, the AI was quite restricted, especially when you're maybe playing custom games or attack and defense. How have you worked on the AI so it's a bit more engaging?
AI is a big area of focus for this game, and right from the start we said we're not going to release the game until the AI is good enough, and our standard is probably just as high as yours. That's all I really want to say about AI. It's been a huge problem for us. We've spent a huge amount of effort on it. It's going to be good. Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, really nice trees.
Thank you.
And the tech tree for units and things for like generals, leveling
Right.
them up. Is that completely on a tree now, or are there still some things they unlock by doing special things in battle?
There are still traits that you can gain by what you do, particularly the negative things. So if you run away from battle a lot, you'll get a reputation as a coward. We have to do that not as something you pick, because people wouldn't tend to pick it. And we still want to get the kind of flavour, so there is an element of what you do is what you get still, but most of it is, most of the positive stuff you choose. Yeah?
I was just wondering if we were going to see a return of the Battlefield Ninjas from Shogun 1.
Battlefield Ninjas have not yet been announced.
Okay.
But they're an obvious thing to want to do, and they're part of the period, so you can draw your own conclusions. Yeah? Oh, sorry, we'll do these closer.
Are you going to be introducing like the birth of female heirs and stuff like that, and be able to train them up into geishas as well? Or?
No, okay, yes and no. Yes to the first part, no to the second, because that wouldn't have happened, right? So, the female heirs in a noble family wouldn't normally end up being assassins. That's not the way it worked. Yeah. Okay.
Hi. I know I might be jumping the gun a bit here, it's still early, the game's not out yet.
Yeah.
But will we be expecting expansion packs, opportunities for modding once it's been out for a bit?
Yeah, okay. Yes to expansion packs. We always do an expansion of at least one really quite big one. One of the things that's changed over the last couple of years is downloadable content's become another thing that we can do. We're putting more and more effort into doing that kind of thing as well. So the kind of little mini campaigns and so on, we should do more of that kind of thing as well. Modding is a much more tricky thing for us. I know that the previous games, Empire and Napoleon, weren't initially as moddable as our modding community would have liked, even though we kind of set off with the objective of making them more moddable than ever before, and we did a whole lot of stuff that we thought would help that, but it didn't really. And without releasing a huge quantity of tools that we just can't support, there was no easy way of doing that. But we are looking at addressing that. But the short answer is, I don't think it'll be any more moddable initially than the previous games were. But we are looking to have something of a better policy on modding and supporting modders, which I'm sure will get announced in due course. One more. Go on. Oh, missed. There was it.
With the emphasis on like historic and how accurate it is,
Yeah.
where's the point at which you say, yes, this would be historically accurate, but it wouldn't be fun? Or the point at which you say, this isn't historically accurate, but it would be a fun addition?
It's surprising how rare that kind of dilemma for us actually crops up. But if we do end up in a situation where we have a choice between fun and pure accuracy, we'll always choose fun. But it just doesn't seem to happen very often. I think it's because everything that happens in history is kind of evolved in a natural way, so it's always balanced from a game point of view. At any point in history, the borders are all in exactly the right place, unit types are all perfectly balanced against each other. If we sort of grab that history accurately, it'll be a good game, right? And if it's a good game, it's fun. So really, it rarely comes up. But we do argue. On those few occasions when it does come up, we have long arguments about it, that's true. Okay, great, thanks everyone. Let's
now I think we've just got one more session today. At 5:10, Tim Willits from id Software is going to be showing us Rage. And Tim's sessions are always packed, so if you want to see that one, you do have to leave the room, I'm afraid. You can't just stay here, but I would suggest that you start queuing up early. Thanks very much.